Hey guys, alright, so phase one of peerScholar is coming to an end, if not over, depending when you're watching this video. Phase two is coming up. Phase two is critical. There's a heck of a lot of good learning that goes on in this phase, and I want to be sure everyone's engaging in it properly because, well, let me just say this. The extent to which everybody enjoys and learns from the process depends largely on the extent to which you guys do it properly. So there's both grades at stake here, but there's also just the whole learning experience for the whole class. So it's really important you do it all right. Let me actually emphasize, by the way, it's so important, this phase, that this is the one phase that we say if you do not complete this in time, you get 0 out of 12 on the entire activity. So make sure you do this and that you do it on time and that you do it properly. Okay, so what do we mean by properly? Here's what's going to happen in this phase. You're going to log back into peerScholar and you're going to hopefully see that the assess phase is opened up, and you click on that. You'll get some instructions right there, but then when you say save and next, you will now be in a screen where there'll be 6 tabs, and within each of those tabs, for some of you there may only be 5, but probably there's 6. Within each of those tabs you will see the work of one of your peers, okay? And it should be anonymous, no names attached, so all you're going to see is their work. And your task here is to assess that work, preferably, specifically to give this person a clear sense of how they can go about improving. So let me step back for a second and just say, why are we doing this to you? There's been a lot of research on this process you're about to go through, which is called peer assessment, asking peers to assess each other's work. A lot of research showing that there's a lot of good that comes out of it in terms of developing critical thinking and communication skills especially. Let's start here. You yourself were charged with creating some short, efficient, effective argument. So what you're now going to see in this phase is 6 of your peers' attempts to do the exact same thing you did. Normally you don't see what any of your students did, what your peers did, but here you will. And in this case, what we want you to do is look at them very carefully. Our hope is that there are a couple or 3 or 4 that are very good. And when you look at them, you'll think, whoa, that is a good piece. That's the kind of thing I guess I should have been doing. How did they do that? What makes theirs so good? What can I learn from those peers? So in some cases, you'll have peers doing a better job, and hopefully you'll learn from them. In other cases, you'll have peers that are not doing a very good job, and you'll also learn here, but here you're going to learn hopefully how to give them good constructive feedback on how to improve. This is also a very valuable skill. If you're going to go on in life and you have any sort of managerial level job, part of that job will be helping junior employees improve their work and get better. And so we're kind of trying to put you in both of these situations now, where you're seeing some people who are doing a little better than you and some people who aren't doing as well, and that you learn different things from looking at both of those pieces of work. But of course you learn if you go about it properly. So here's what I specifically would like you to do. I would recommend the following. First of all, read each of the 6 pieces. Before you do anything else, just read each of the 6 and kind of be asking yourself these questions. How clear was that? How obvious was it what they were arguing? And maybe most important, how compelling was their argument? Did they do a really good job of convincing me that their perspective had a lot of merit? So look at those 6, kind of think about them relative to each other, and then one by one do the following. For each piece, first give it a rating, okay? This rating is not a mark. Your marks for each other do not count. But what it is a way for you to communicate your impression of how good this piece was. So literally, imagine you are the TA or the teacher now. You're trying to give this person a sense, was their work a 6 out of 10 quality or was it an 8 out of 10 quality? So that's the first thing you do, give that rating. Next thing, you're going to be asked to give a positive comment. So highlight something this person is doing well. Let them know, hey, by the way, this thing you were doing, I thought it worked really good. So that's a good way of letting them know what's working so they can hopefully repeat it. But just highlight one thing that they're doing really well. The most important is the so-called constructive criticism, constructive response that you're going to give. And here's what I want you to do for that. For each piece, think of all of the ways it could be better. And then kind of try to zoom in on, well, okay, maybe I can see 5 things this person can change, but what's the one thing that if they changed, I think it would improve this work the most? Okay, so once you've zeroed in on that one thing, then I want you to first explain to them clearly what that thing is. Okay, here's a current problem with your piece. Here's a weakness, let's say. Explain that weakness very clearly, and then secondly, give them some sense about how to go about improving it. Okay, so you might say something like, for example, I really didn't know what your argument was until the 3rd paragraph, and that made it really hard to read and evaluate your piece. Your argument should be proposed earlier, preferably in the 1st paragraph, maybe even in the 1st sentence of the 1st paragraph. If you did that, then I think the rest of your piece would be a lot stronger. Okay, so you want to give them a substantive, good comment that hopefully when they read it, they'll think, wow, okay, cool, and that could make my work better. That's the goal here. We're trying to get you all to help each other. It's what we call a very pro-social situation, trying to make the group feel closer. And remember, you're going to do this for 6 pieces, but 6 of them are going to do it to your piece. And you're eventually going to see what those 6 people have said, and then you're going to be given the opportunity to use their advice to improve your mark and get a better grade. So you will be very thankful for those students who take the time to give you good advice, and therefore please do the same for them. Take the time, analyze their piece carefully, and try to give them some really good advice about how to improve. Keep in mind, part of your grade, 3 marks out of 12, so 25% of the mark on this assignment, is related to the quality of the comments you give to your peers. TAs will be looking at your comments, specifically at the constructive comment, and they will be asking for each piece. Did they point out a weakness? And did they point out some way in which that weakness could be improved? I want to just emphasize that, so let's just imagine, 6 pieces, they're looking for you to do that 6 times. So you can almost imagine a half a mark for each of the peers that you assess that will be determined by, do you identify a weakness and do you give them a sense about how to correct it? Now, I want to back up. Sometimes when people see the marks on their peerScholar, they get upset and they said, I did everything you told me to do, so I should have got a perfect mark, is the implication. But there's also a question of how well you do it. So what do you point out about the person's work? Well, try to point out something substantive, something that you think will be very useful to them. In fact, we're going to ask you all to rate how useful the comments are that your peers gave you. So try to give them ones that are really useful. When the TA looks at that, they're going to be asking themselves the question, wow, was this student really helpful? Did they try hard to help their peer? And if the answer is yes, then that's what's going to get you good marks. Okay? So, hopefully I was very clear about that. Take this phase very seriously. Try your best to give each other really good quality comments. And if you do that, then when you get to the 3rd phase, you're going to have great comments. That's going to help you all get the best marks you can get on this assignment. All right? Cool. I'll shut up there. Have a good one. Bye-bye.